Hello again, Cons here, and following on from my Raging Brachydios set analysis, I thought I would do one for Furious Rajang. It's a little bit less detailed just because the armor's not as good in my opinion, but I'll talk about why and what exactly it grants you. First, let's have a look at how it looks. Here is the beta set on a female character. I don't have a male character, unfortunately. And here is the alpha set. They both look really good, I have to admit. Cheeky thigh window, you know how it be. But let's look at the pieces themselves. Rajang Heart, Large Yellow Dragon Gen, Mantles. So similar to Brachydios, these are going to be quite difficult to make. They require the new Jang pieces and a bunch of sort of mantle-like materials. So yeah, not exactly the easiest things to make. Now as far as skills are concerned, we're talking earplugs, heroics, a lot of maximum might. Feel free to pause, by the way, if you wanted to stop anywhere. Maximum heroics and some health boost. Okay, and now we'll look at the set bonus. The set bonus, this is just me front loading all the important information, by the way, raises the maximum level of the maximum might skill. So max might goes up to 5. It's the same as Glavinus basically, but it won't stack because it has a different name. Rajang will, it won't contribute. And the second set bonus at 4 points, it raises the maximum level of the heroic skill, which takes us up to 40% attack and increased defense. So it's pretty powerful. A 40% increase to your attack, just like in the old games. Heroics was pretty insane if you're willing to take the risk and use it. Yeah, it unlocks heroics. It's sort of the thing that I thought base Rajang would do, to be honest. So it's a pretty cool set bonus. I'll talk about why I don't think anybody's going to use it in a bit, but for now we'll keep going. So actually, I do need to talk about heroics. I recently put out a does it stack style video talking about whether or not heroics stacks with feline heroics. I hashed out some of the damage numbers too. Feline Heroics gives you, which is a food skill by the way, gives you a 35% increase to your attack. However, the health threshold seems to be a bit more tight than this heroic skill. So it's harder to get into, but it gives you a 35 boost to attack for the cost of a food skill. You can also get attack up large when you eat for Feline Heroics as well, which is nice to know. However, the armor skill itself gives you a 40% increased attack for the cost of 7 skill points, as well as some extra defense, although it's not really going to make a difference if you're at 35% damage. Now, unfortunately, as I've shown in my Do Not Stack video, these do not stack. The 35% you get from Feline Heroics and the 40% you get... Well, actually, I tested it with level 5, but it's the same skill. They do not stack. So really, by running Heroics, all you're doing is not having to run Feline Heroics, and you're not gaining a 40% damage boost. You're going from 35% to 40%, which if you do the maths, 40 divided by 1.4 divided by 1.35, it's only a 3.7% damage increase. Now, if you're doing speedruns and you're trying to get the most damage possible, maybe this is worth using. But given how many points it takes and how many skills you're going to have to sacrifice to get it, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm basically going to write off heroics. There might be some very niche use cases, but for the vast majority of people, they're not going to use heroics at all. And for the vast majority of people who do use heroics, feline heroics will probably suffice and might even be more viable. So yeah, sorry about that, but I don't, at least in my opinion, I might be wrong, consult the speedrunners, but I don't think heroic secret is really worth using at all. With that out of the way, we can get on to the actual good parts of the skill. Maximum might secret, I mean, if you think back to base world, everybody was running 3 points of maximum might because it was such an efficient way to get affinity, and affinity is quite hard to come by. It should be possible to get max affinity at basically all times without even having to use Safijiva's set if you run 5 points of maximum might. 5 skill points for 40 affinity. Now the other thing is, it's not always going to be active. Again, you'll think back to base world, maximum might doesn't give you full affinity 100% of the time, and there are a lot of sets at the moment that are very, very tight with the sharpness thresholds. They only give you 10 points of purple for meta, so you might want to increase the number of points of sharpness you're running, but that's a very small cost to pay for an increase of 40 affinity. So yeah, the maximum might set bonus is really nice, especially because it only takes 2 pieces to unlock. With that said, let's have a look at some of the alpha skills. We can see earplugs. I personally tend to write off earplugs. They're not exactly meta. If you really like earplugs, you can draw your own conclusions as to whether or not they're worth it. With earplugs being considered, these are probably quite efficient. Earplugs is a 3-slot skill, so having it here is quite nice. And I don't know that there's an earplugs 2 decoration. So yeah, if you want earplugs, nice, go for it, but I'm not a huge fan of the skill, so I'm not really gonna consider it as adding much value to these pieces. Similarly, the arms give defense boost on the alpha, which is just a waste. Come on, it's 2020, guys. So yeah, with that in mind, I'm now going to analyze the armor pieces. So we are writing off the head, as mentioned previously. I'm also going to write off the legs. People might not be happy with that. I'm not a huge fan of health boost, at least not as a dedicated piece. The slots on this armor set are nice, 4-4. They're pretty good slot-wise. However, health boost is better, in my opinion, to get from when you're trying to fill out the rest of your tenderizer points or whatever. And you've got some spare 4s, but no spare 2s. And so you use a tenderizer health boost decoration. For me, that's the best way to get health boost onto the set. I can't see myself using this, especially over like the Garuga legs. 2 weakness exploit, a 4 slot, a 2 slot, and I think another 2 slot. Like, you can't beat that. So I don't really see much value to these legs. The waist potentially could be useful. We'll talk about that in a second. The chest similarly so. Now with the arms, I get what they're going for. Maximum might, to maintain it, you need to be at max stamina. And so they're arguing that you should put on some points of stamina surge to stay there. That said, nobody really did that in base world when they were running maximum might, so I don't think that's going to change. And the weapon that does use stamina surge, bow, is never really at full stamina, so I can't imagine maximum might stacking well with it. So if you're a bow player and you're specifically looking for stamina surge, this arm piece might be good for you. But otherwise, I can't see it getting much use. Now, for the chest and the waist, I think we need to preface this with the fact that maximum might, you see currently nobody runs it, of course. And that's because it takes a long time for it to activate. That's the reason we need the set bonus to unlock it to reach level 5. What that means is that on their own merits, unless you're specifically running 2 points of Rajang and reaching 5 points of maximum might, these pieces of armor are useless. There's no point running them individually, the chest and the waist piece. The only value is running them alongside another piece of Rajang armor, and that would most likely be either the legs or the waist. At which point then you're getting your 40% affinity from them. So yeah, we can proceed now. Regarding the chest piece, I mean, I talked about Raging Brekkie in the previous video, and I said it was one of the best chest pieces out there, and I mean, Furious Rajang sort of matches that, assuming you're running 5 pieces of maximum might, of course. 3 points of max might, a 4 slot and a 2 slot. And here you've got 2 points of agitator, a 4 slot, a 2 slot, and a 1 slot. So you're essentially swapping out the 1 slot for an extra point of max might and swapping the agi out. Yeah, it's a really good piece of armor. I cannot fault it, assuming that you're running 5 points of max might. The waist, again, we don't really have that many great waists in the game. Usually it's sort of fodder for set bonuses. However, I mean, this is a really good waist piece as well. I said this again with Raging Brekkie, 3 agitator, 4 slot, 1 slot. It's really good. This is kind of the inverse of the chest piece, but yeah, 2 max might, a 4 slot, a 2 slot, and a 1 slot. That's quite an efficient piece of armor. So maybe if you are running set boost max might to get to 5 points, you might see people moving around their set bonus pieces to try and unlock this. That said, aside from that specific niche case, I don't think it's going to see much usage for the reasons mentioned previously. So, TLDR. I might have upset a few people with my writing off of the head and the legs because of their sort of comfy skills. Obviously run them if that interests you, but that's not what I'm interested in personally. However, there are, and even the arms, I don't think you're going to see much use of the arms aside from maybe on bow builds where you desperately need stamina surge and an efficient piece, but again, I don't see it being used that much. The only use case I really see this set finding is running 2 pieces of Rajang to get the maximum might unlocked, and then specifically getting maximum might all the way up to level 5 for basically 40 affinity. Now 40 affinity, it's pretty substantial, and I reckon the 3 pieces you'll see used will be sort of between the chest, the waist, and the legs, depending on sort of the other set bonus pieces that you're juggling around. That said, if you run something like Agitator Secret, not only are you getting 20 affinity, which is more consistent than the 40 affinity you get from maximum might in my opinion, but you're also getting the 30 true raw. And the thing is, we are able to push our affinity up, because remember, you only really need to reach 50 affinity. You're probably going to be tenderizing on most builds, aside from maybe Gunlance, but Gunlance isn't going to be at full stamina a lot. So you're going to be tenderizing. That's 50 affinity right there. Your weapons, you'll probably augment for affinity. You don't need this much maximum might, especially when there's already so much critical eye and other abilities to get yourself up to... other ways to get yourself up to 100% affinity. I don't think running these 2 pieces to get 5 points of maximum might is going to see much usage, to be honest with you. I think there are higher priority skills to gun for. You know, once you've filled out your maximum might, and let's say you freed up all of your critical eye slots, what do you spend them on? You're going to get peak performance, maybe? Probably not peak performance or resentment, I guess, but you're going to get peak performance, maybe, and obviously attack if you haven't already got it. Put some points into agitator. I don't know. I don't see us getting enough true raw to offset it. To me, it seems more efficient to run something like agitator secret over these pieces, because they are roughly equally efficient. But I might be completely wrong. Who knows? Maybe 2 weeks down the line, all of the speedruns will be using 5 points of max might. I could be completely off. These are just my first impressions based on sort of my experience with the game. But yeah, I hope that all made sense. Hopefully I didn't ruffle too many feathers. Please always take everything I say with a grain of salt. I am not, one of the top tier speedrunners. So who knows? I might be wrong. But anyway, yeah, I hope you have a good time hunting Rajang, and I hope you have a good time making his armor and maybe having some fun with it, even if I'm not the biggest fan. Alright, take it easy. Bye bye.